Hello and welcome back to another episode of the channel by me, the Wise James. I just want to quickly react to this LPC video of have we been asleep at the wheel on anti-Semitism? Yes, is the answer. Let's get into it.
Let's bring into the conversation Russell Langer, who is Director of Public Affairs at the Jewish Leadership Council. Thank you very much for joining us. Dame Louise Ellman, who I know is involved with Your Body, was saying earlier on that anti-Jewish hate has become normalised in this country.
It has. Anti-Jewish hate has become normalised in Britain. Look, I live in one of the largest Jewish settlements in Europe. There's about 15,000 Hasidic Jews. There's maybe a couple of hundred of different variations of that as well, where you've got some ones... What are the Jewish people who follow Jesus called? Messianic, right. Okay. So anyway, right, literally, if I go to Newcastle to speak to some friends or people I know, like, it's normal for them to take the piss out of the Jews in my community. It's normal in Gateshead, where I live, for the entire community to take the piss out of the Jews. Not normal people who are hard-working, decent human beings, but I'm on about, you know, the rats on the street, the ones who are drinking and taking Valium and shooting up fucking heroin and stuff, right? Those sorts of people don't think twice about saying something anti-Semitic and be like, oh, fucking Jews or that. There's only one day of the year I have any problem with the Jews, and that's Purim, because they don't abide by any rules and laws that day of the year. You've got 13-year-olds walking around drunk, driving vehicles drunk, getting arrested because they're drunk driving. They've got music blasting so loud it literally shakes the foundations of buildings. Like it's like the Purge, but for Jewish people. Like, so there's only one day of the year I got a problem with them, and it's the one day of the year they let their hair down. I mean, am I really going to complain they have fun one day a year? No, not really. I complain about the crimes, but not anything else. So I have to think it is normal. It is normal nowadays to be hateful towards Jewish people, and that is because people mistakenly connect Jewish people and Israel as one thing. And even Jewish people themselves do it. So an attack on the actions of Israel is seen as an attack on all Jews, when that's bullshit. That's like saying, you know, because I don't like Turkey. I do like Turkey. Turkey's great, by the way. You know, I'm against all Turkish people. That's just such bullshit. Like, just because you're against the actions of Israel doesn't even make you against Israelis, let alone Jewish folk. Like, it makes no sense. It's a coping mechanism because they don't want you to not like Israel because it's their homeland, etc., right? But, whatever. So, the rise in anti-Semitism is terrible. And the rise in Islamophobia is just as bad. It's just as bad. The thing is, right, I have a go at Christians every day for lying about Jesus and stuff, right? Because he was Jewish, right? Stuff like that. But I would never encourage violence against them and against the Jews or the Muslims. Like, I tell the Muslims, like, how could Muhammad check what was written that he said if he couldn't read and write? Someone could have changed the words and nobody would have ever known. And then they don't like me for it. Like, so this hate needs to stop. Needs to stop.
Almost normalised. Do you think she's right?
She is right.
It is right. Literally, if I go out my house and go to Gateshead, on the way to Gateshead, I will see about 3 security staff protecting the Jewish community. And it's not for no reason. There's literally people come by in white vans shouting Nazi slogans and doing the Hitler salute and shouting Adolf at little Jewish boys and stuff. These people are sick fuckers. And they literally terrorize and abuse Jewish people daily. And you all don't hear about it because the Jews don't kick up a fuss about it because they're used to it. It's daily.
Right. I mean, today was the holiest day in the calendar for the Jewish people, and it's been a horrific day with the...
That was yesterday, by the way.
attack. But just to put it into the context of how normalized that is, as I walked to synagogue last night with my brother, the conversation was, would an attack be more likely on Yom Kippur or on any other Sabbath service that people were going to? That was the conversation I was having last night. So when I became aware of the news today, I was deeply shocked, but it wasn't a surprise. This is a scenario that we have sadly prepared for a long time. It's completely normal in this country that people expect to see security outside our places of worship, at Jewish places of worship, that Jewish children.
I would be worried if I walked through the Jewish community near my house. If I walked through there and there wasn't security, I would be worried. I would think, what's going on? Why aren't these people protected?
Go to school with security guards to be safe. That is normalization of that hatred.
Have we been?
It has become normal. Honestly, it's perfectly normal for me to walk out the house and hear someone say something anti-Jewish. It's perfectly normal. Like, it's not unheard of. It's almost every day where I live. And if I go over to Newcastle over the river, it's even worse. Because people in Gateshead know they live amongst the Jewish community, so I think try and say less. But in Newcastle, they don't. They say they say some awful, awful things about the Jewish people in Newcastle. But most people aren't like that. But there's just some people do it, and they get to go around doing it, and no one stops them. Like, it causes shit like this, where people try and kill innocent people.
Been asleep at the wheel when it comes to anti-Semitism?
I think we have. I think we've been looking at it in the wrong way. We can talk about the support the government has given towards security at those institutions, Jewish synagogues, Jewish schools, and of course that is welcome. But fundamentally, we need to be asking the question as to why public money is needed to be put in this country to the safety of Jewish people. Why is such a threat there? I think too often we deal with, let's put some money towards security, and we're failing to have the conversations.
Unfortunately, people are not ready to have the conversation of why there is so much anti-Jewish hate. And it is because of Christianity. I'm sorry. Christianity convinced hundreds of millions of people that the Jews are responsible for the death of Jesus and that the Jews betrayed Jesus. And somehow it wasn't the Romans who wrote the Bible's fault. And it wasn't the Romans' fault. No, it was the Jews' fault. So you get a lot of people grow up disliking Jews because they believe the lie that they killed Jesus. They're responsible for Jesus' death. When literally, it's well known the Romans murdered him. The Jews didn't murder him. It's well known. The Jewish people who were temple guards had to hand him in because they were doing their jobs. It had nothing to do with religion, if you believe the story of Jesus, of course. So this is why we have the Nazis. We have all this shit. You just don't want to talk about it because it contradicts the Bible. And if we all start going around contradicting the Bible, it means people would start contradicting the Torah and the Quran. So none of you religions want to talk about it. You're just happy to let people lie about Jesus. You're all happy to do that. You've got no problems doing it. That's why I think most of you are heretics.
As to why we are seeing such levels of hatred against Jewish people in this country. And, the attack was successful today in that it murdered 2 people.
It doesn't help that I think Keir Starmer's wife is Jewish. Wait there. I think his wife is Jewish, right? So Keir Starmer's wife being Jewish may be a rather large element in this case. I don't know if that's true or not, but it certainly can't be a detail overlooked. I don't think. The government probably overlooks it because they're idiots. Fucking morons.
People, my thoughts and prayers are with them and their loved ones and those who are in hospital now. But this is just the latest incident. We've seen foiled attacks over the years. Any one of those plots could have been the one that we would be having this conversation over. And Jewish people will be resilient. They'll be back in synagogues over the coming days for the Sabbath.
One thing I will say yesterday, there was very few Jewish people out in their community that I would normally expect to see. And I don't know if that's normal, because if on their holiest of days, maybe they spend most of the day in the house with their family and their children, that would make sense. but there was barely a Jewish person to be seen anywhere, almost as if they'd put themselves on a security lockdown for their own safety. That's how bad it looked. That people think like, you know, it was London or Manchester, so why would people other places of the world be worried? But the Jewish people have had this for thousands of years. Like, they've got protocols and processes in place for the entire Jewish communities in case of attacks because they're so used to it. And we literally understand this and try and help them with security.
For upcoming festivals, and they'll
all because Christians lie about Jesus. Literally all because Christians lie about Jesus. Christianity was made by the people who killed him, the Romans. The apostles who followed Jesus were all Jewish. I'm sorry, but it's Christianity is the reason why Jewish people face so much hate. Even the entire Nazi party were Christians mostly. Well, they said they were. Let's be honest. To be a true Christian, you'd have to be very loving, very understanding, and very forgiving. You'd have to love thy neighbour. You'd have to turn the other cheek. I don't see any Christians in the modern world do this. Like Donald Trump claims to be Christian. Does he love thy neighbour? Is he understanding? Does he show compassion and love for those less fortunate than him? Does he forgive those who trespass against him, for they know not what they do? No. Does he view the donations of a beggar with only $1 in his name as a man who donated all of his life's money as more than some rich Saudi Arabian prince who donates $1 million, but he's got $1 trillion in the bank? No, he doesn't. But yet Trump thinks he is a Christian who follows Jesus. And this is the problem you all have. You just let liars and charlatans and fraudsters pretend to be some things they are not, and you never question them on it.
Security there, I'm sure it will be upped, and that is welcome. But fundamentally, we have a problem in this country that's even needed.
Do you think Britain is divided when it comes to... I mean, I suppose what I'm asking is, have we been asleep at the wheel when it comes to sort of community relations in Britain?
The problem we also have is because a lot of people cannot detach Israel and Jewish people as separate. One's a country, one's a culture of people, right? Because they can't do that, all the anti-Israeli hate has also stirred up hate towards the Jewish people. Because it's not just the Jewish people who sometimes can't detach Israel and Jews. It's also non-Jewish and non-Israeli people. So you've literally got British people out there who think Israel represents the Jews and all the Jews are connected to Israel, when we've literally had many Jewish people up and down all over the world protesting against Israel's actions. Not many, but there has been some. You can't throw all Jewish people into the same bucket. They're not all Israelis. They're not all fans of Israel. They're not all they don't all agree with Israel's actions. And you can't then attack them because of Israel. It's so stupid. All this bullshit because people are being idiots.
Yes, ultimately, yeah, we talk about security isn't new outside these places of worship. This has been something that's been going on for decades. I went to...
Decades, you say? Thousands of years, try. The temple guards who handed in Jesus were guarding the temple. We've had security outside places of worship for thousands of years because the one place where you as a man would not be armed with a weapon would be in a holy worship site or a sacred place like a church or a synagogue or a mosque or, you know, a pagan natural holy site. You were not allowed to take weapons into these places. And so when people tried to kill and assassinate people, that's where they tried to get them because they were unarmed. So there's always, for thousands of years, been security outside places of worship. Always.
School with security, but the last 2 years has seen something on a completely different scale. And the most shameful part of it is When October 7th happened, the attack almost 2 years ago now, that has seen the spike in levels of anti-Semitism in this country. There was no question about it. We put it in our initial statement on the day of the attack itself that we know that when incidents like this happen, we will see a rise in hatred in this country. And fundamentally, why is it that conflict in thousands of miles away are causing people in this country to come out and cause hatred against Jewish people?
It was just like I was saying. It's just like people mistake Israel as representing all Jewish people because Israel claims to, but it's not. Like, there's many Jews in the world who are not anything to do with Israel, don't follow Israel, don't agree with Israel, and want nothing to do with Israel because of their actions against the Palestinian people and stuff like this. Not all Jewish people agree with Israel's actions. So we have idiots out there who don't understand that. And so any action of Israel, they see as an action of a Jew. And any action by a Jew, they see as an action of Israel. Because they're idiots. They're fucking idiots. The world's full of idiots.
And we need to be less squeamish about it. We need to call it out where we see it. There is no place for this extremist rhetoric. And fundamentally, we all need to up our game on that.
And when it comes to what should happen next, is it a case of looking at
This is why I say we call out bigots and racism and anti-Semites and fascism wherever we see it. Just because these racists and fascists are getting upset about being called racist and fascist doesn't mean we should stop calling it out. In fact, we should double down and call it out more so people stop being racists. Bunch of weaklings. Being scared of other humans because they've got a different skin or culture. What a bunch of funnies.
Longer term, things like education? Is it looking at, in the short term, as we've seen today, security at synagogues, which is something that I would hope, I imagine you would hope, wouldn't be necessary, but sadly clearly is?
I've never seen a synagogue without security. So they'll be ramping it up, that's for sure.
Of course, education is a big part of it, but I think it's more fundamental than that. We need to see the law working. We need to see those who are out there supporting.
The thing is, the Jewish people are not unaware that the Romans tried to get the whole world to blame them for what happened to the Jews, even though the whole world, to Jesus, even though the whole world knows it was the Romans who killed Jesus. But somehow, over the last 2,000 years, with Christianity, they've convinced nearly half the planet that it was the Jews who killed Jesus. And then some of that half the planet who were made to believe that have gone on to hate Jewish people because of that lie they were taught that they killed Jesus. Now, if you want to say that a Jewish person betrayed Jesus, in many ways you could argue that because Jesus was Jewish. So he had friends and family and people in his community were all Jewish, and at least one of them would have betrayed him. And we know apparently Judas did, but Judas was classed as his best friend in some regards because he was his most trusted ally. And he never betrayed him. He did exactly what Jesus asked. But the Romans made out he betrayed him, sure. But I'm sure in the Hebrew versions of events, Judas is the one who did exactly what Jesus asked. He didn't go behind his back and drop him into the Romans. Jesus asked him to do that. But the Romans changed that, you see. They changed a lot of words in the Bible. Like, Mary in Hebrew was originally innocent Mary, young woman Mary. But the Latin Romans didn't have a word for innocent and for young woman like that. So they called her virgin. So then they all went around preaching Jesus' mother was a virgin and he was a virgin birth. But that was never the story. That would be like changing Lord of the Rings and changing it from being a ring to a necklace or a bracelet. It doesn't seem like it matters, does it? But over 2,000 years of telling that story, it fucking matters. Oh, it fucking matters, all right. There's no such thing as a virgin human birth, and we all know this. It's literally scientifically impossible. The only way a woman could give birth without having intercourse would be if she was a hermaphrodite and somehow impregnated her own egg with her own sperm. And I don't think that's what they're claiming Mary did.
Prescribed terrorist groups dealt with the full force of the law without anything holding that back. We need to see anyone who conflates legitimate criticism of actions of foreign governments with hatred of people here.
See, talking about Israel, people mistake like Jews being connected to Israel and all Israel being connected to Jews. Like, you're such idiots. Such idiots. Some people really need to go back to high school. Like,
With the full force of the law. And ultimately, as we need to be able to call that out even when it's not comfortable.
yes.
Could I ask you lastly, when it comes to the marches that have been taking place across central London, there is a dispute about one that is scheduled to take place on Saturday in support of Palestine Action, which is a proscribed terror organisation now, as you will know. I just wondered your thoughts on that.
People have the right to march in support of the Palestinians against actions of the Israeli government. But when we see placards out there with anti-Semitic rhetoric, when they're supporting a proscribed terrorist group who has targeted Jewish community organizations and buildings in recent years, we just need to be really clear and say that is unacceptable. And I can't tell you the motives of each and every one of those people who are going to go out and protest, but I will say this to them: look at the people standing.
The sad thing is, some of those people have no self-identity anymore. So what they try and do is find this niche group to fit in so they can feel like they're part of something. When we were kids, it was like, be a goth or a chav or a townie. Maybe a skater, something like that, right? But nowadays, these kids don't do this. The youth don't do that. They'll join like Antifa and start fucking wearing balaclavas and protesting against Israel. They'll do shit like that just to feel like they're part of something because they have no identity. The Tories closed all the youth clubs. Our culture's been eroded away. You're almost made out to be a criminal for waving the British flag. So these young people are clinging on to these extremist groups to get some sort of self-identity. And then they cling to that self-identity, and if you try to take it away from them, they'll attack you for it because that's how they value themselves now. It's just crazy. It's crazy. People literally have built their entire self-worth through the eyes of other people. It's mental.
Either side of you, look at the placards that they're going to be holding and what they are going to be saying about Jewish people in this country, and ask if you want to be standing with those people.
To be fair, not all Jewish people are nice Jewish people. I've met a few young Jewish men who are very rude, and literally I was playing football on a football court once near my house, and these Jewish lads came on, and they wanted to play in that, and they were playing a game, and I wanted to play it, and I had a sciatic nerve injury at the time, so I'm literally working on an injury. I'm not doing this just for the fun of it. It's like serious rehabilitation. So I was trying to be polite and asked how long of the match was left. And they were like, oh, it's next goal wins or whatever. So I was like, oh, great. So I just stood outside, kicking the ball around, waiting for them to finish. And then they finished, and then tried to start a new match. And I was happy to join in with this match, but this one Jewish boy wasn't happy with me playing. He was clearly, I don't know what the opposite of an anti-Semite is. Like an non-Jew? I don't know what that would be called, but he was clearly the equivalent of an anti-Semite, but towards non-Jewish people. And he didn't want me to play with them. And he even tried to get a fight started. And he was like, oh, you came here looking for a fight, like trying to gaslight me into a reaction. And I looked at him, I was like, I didn't come here for a fight. I came here to play football and work on my injury, and you're stopping me. And he was like, what injury? And that made me feel a bit good, because it meant he couldn't tell I had a severe sciatic nerve damage. But, he thought that he had the right to be there over me when it was a public court and I was letting them finish the game. I could have just walked on and done what the fuck I wanted. But I asked them all, because they were saying, oh, there's too many people. And so they were trying to send 4 Jews and me away from the court. And I was like, no, just make another team. 3 teams. What are you doing? And basically, right, it was just it was very clear he didn't want me as a non-Jewish person playing. It was very clear. Oh, I felt the hate. I felt it. But the thing is, he was probably like a a student from somewhere else in the world who's come here to study, because Gateshead's quite a famous place for Jewish people to study. So I did end up playing and won. But yeah, I never forgot him for that, because he was basically he tried to be really polite about things, but what he was really doing was really evil and nasty. Like, doesn't matter how kindly you wrap your words up with nice words and a comfortable tone of voice. If you're still saying fuck off, you're not playing, right? But it's a public court and you can't stop me playing, I'm going to tell you to fuck off. It's a public court, you can't stop me. I was nice enough to give them the chance to finish their game and didn't just walk on the pitch. And because they tried to claim it wasn't big enough, I was like, well, it depends if you're children or men. And I looked at them all, and these are all like 13, 14-year-old boys. And they're like, well, we're men. Because obviously they've had a bar mitzvah. So that in their community, in the Jewish community, they are men. But in my community, they're not even young men. They were just boys. 13, 14-year-old boys. But in their minds, they were equivalent to me, a 30-year-old man with a child. They were thinking they're the equivalent. They think they're that. They think they're a man because they've had a bar mitzvah at 13. Like, in Jewish culture and community is very different. But for me, this was a child, a boy, being disrespectful to me. But in his mind, I'm a Jewish man, even though he was literally like 12. Like, my 10-year-old daughter is taller than he was now. So, like, literally, he was a tiny little boy thinking he was a man, treating me like he was my equal. And he wasn't my equal. Because I was nicer than he was. He just pretended to be nice. Like, there's a difference. So, yeah, I've not really had any problems with Jewish people ever, really. And even that Jewish kid, all of his mates were laughing at him. Like, because it was clear he was just a dickhead.
Thank you, Russell. Russell Langer is Director of Public Affairs at the Jewish Leadership Council.
So, yeah, that's my take on why we have so much problems with violence against Jewish people, how it's being caused, where it comes from. And I think we have the same problem with Nigel Farage and Muslims and Islamophobia. He's been making his political party grow by appealing to racists and xenophobes for 10 years. Like UKIP, the British National Party, the EDL liked him, although he had nothing to do with it. Literally, the entire backbone of his political career has been built from recruiting racists who are just like that Syrian guy who's attacked these Jews. And sooner or later, you're all going to have to understand that any violence towards Muslims in this country is going to start landing at the feet of Nigel Farage for responsibility. And people like Nigel and Tommy Robinson. And just because there's two bad Muslims doesn't make all Muslims bad. The same way that just because some nuns in Ireland killed infant babies and put 800 infant baby skeletons in a septic tank doesn't make all nuns bad people. Just because some priests have attacked children for hundreds of years doesn't make all priests nonces who attack children. Have a good day. Bye.